What if the reason manifestation isn't working for most people is because it's too simple to take seriously? Quantum manifestation isn't magic. It's not a mindset trick. It's a precise frequency exchange between your inner state and the field of reality itself. But here's the twist. Most people are so busy trying to manifest, they completely miss how it actually works. This audiobook is your decoding key. No fluff, no spiritual gymnastics, just the raw mechanics of how thoughts collapse into form, why effort blocks results, and how to finally align with what you've been asking for all along. And by the time you hit the final 2 chapters, everything you thought you knew about manifestation will be flipped inside out. If you're ready to stop overthinking it and start tuning into it, type "I'm done making it hard" in the comments right now. Tap the thumbs up, hit subscribe, and join the first 20,000 awakened minds breaking out of the illusion of complexity. And if this message sparks something in you, the thanks and join buttons are now open. Help us amplify this shift and make the quantum awakening impossible to ignore. Chapter 1. The Illusion of Effort. Why Trying Blocks Manifestation. In the hidden architecture of reality, effort is a mask, one that disguises the deeper truth that what you seek is already connected to you. But as long as you are trying, you are unknowingly pushing that truth further away. The moment you try, you send out a silent signal that says, "I don't have it yet." And in that very moment, the system that mirrors back your inner state responds faithfully. You experience not having it. What many misunderstand is that effort, as we are taught to understand it, doesn't bring you closer to what you desire. It quietly declares that you are distant from it, still chasing it, still outside the experience of it. When you exert effort, you're not actually moving toward the thing you want. You're carving out a story where the desire remains in the future. And the strange paradox is that the more you push, the more you emphasize its absence. That pushing, that struggling, that tightening inside you becomes the dominant message. Not the goal itself, but the sense of separation. And so, the outcome is not shaped by what you want. It is shaped by the message your energy carries. I must work hard because I don't yet have this thing. That's what is received and mirrored back. Effort, then, is not neutral. It speaks, it broadcasts, it commands. This is not about laziness or inaction. It's about how you relate to what you want. The problem with effort isn't that it moves energy. It's that it creates a specific kind of tension. That tension acts as a boundary, keeping the desired experience locked away, not because you're unworthy, but because your state is not synchronized with its presence. In the unseen layers of reality, trying is not a sign of determination, it is a sign of disconnection. You may believe you're closing the gap, but the deeper field is listening to your signal, and the signal says, "I am not there yet." So the field listens, and it responds by making sure you remain where you are. Another consequence of effort is the fracture it causes in your attention. When you strive, you divide yourself. A part of you is here, but another part is straining toward a future that hasn't arrived. This split in focus becomes a split in time, and you scatter your presence across multiple possible outcomes instead of anchoring into the one you want. That scattered state doesn't create, it dilutes. You are no longer the center of your own gravity. The timelines around you begin to blur, and instead of collapsing into a single clear outcome, you remain suspended between possibilities that never finalize. This is the unspoken cost of effort. You lose the unbroken gaze that births reality. And then there is the energy of wanting, the innocent longing that carries a hidden danger. Wanting feels romantic, poetic even, but it too is a declaration. It says, "I do not yet have this." When that becomes the dominant frequency, reality doesn't punish you, it simply reflects you. The field doesn't grant or deny, it mirrors. So when your state is defined by wanting, the loop continues. You reach out, and the mirror shows reaching. You ache, and the mirror shows aching. You do not receive, because you have not become the one who already has. What most people don't realize is that true manifestation never arrives through pressure. It doesn't respond to force. That entire model is built on the old way of doing things, the belief that reality is a machine to be manipulated with effort and willpower. But manifestation is not mechanical. It doesn't respond to pressure. It responds to presence. When you pressure reality, you assume it is something outside of you. But when you drop the act of trying, you start to sense something shocking. Reality is not a wall you need to break through. It is already listening. It has always been listening. Effort implies that you must convince something to change, that you are here and what you want is over there. But permission is different. It doesn't push, it opens. In the quiet of not trying, there is something strange that begins to happen. What you thought was far starts to feel familiar. What you thought was unreachable begins to move toward you. Not because you forced it, but because you stopped standing in the way. The space between you and the outcome begins to dissolve when you stop holding that space open through effort. This is the illusion that most never see. That effort is not helping you reach the goal. It is preserving the gap. It is the invisible wall. And so trying becomes the very act that keeps reality frozen in the state you wish to change. You keep knocking, unaware that the door is not locked. It's being held closed by the hand that keeps knocking. This is not poetic metaphor. It is the invisible logic of the field. Your struggle is not a bridge. It is a barrier. That's why, in the architecture of how things come to be, the most powerful shifts happen not through doing more, but through dissolving the tension that effort creates. In this stillness, reality can breathe again. The picture becomes clear, not because you reached it, but because you allowed it. And in this space of allowance, reality is no longer something you chase. It becomes something that meets you. You do not need to try your way to what is already linked to your presence. The harder you push, the more you reinforce the myth that it lies beyond reach. But what you're really seeking does not exist in the distance. It exists in the state you choose to occupy right now. That state is veiled the moment effort enters. It creates noise in a place that only responds to clarity. So the deeper message is not that you must do nothing. It's that you must stop doing the one thing that creates the illusion of lack: trying. This is the riddle of manifestation that most never solve. Reality is not earned through effort. It is revealed through the removal of effort, like fog lifting from a landscape that was always there. The power is not in how hard you push. It is in how gently you step back from the belief that you ever needed to. And only in that quiet does the reflection shift, because now the mirror is no longer showing the one who is trying. It shows the one who knows, the one who is, the one who no longer needs to reach, because they've remembered where the real signal comes from. And it's not effort. It never was. Chapter 2. The Stillness Trigger. How nothingness attracts everything. In the space between thoughts, something extraordinary happens. When the mind is not weaving stories, when it is not grasping at meanings, explanations, or desires, a quiet opening forms, a kind of inner vacuum. This mental vacuum isn't empty in the way we often imagine silence to be. It is, instead, filled with the raw material of all that could be. It is where the unshaped potential of reality begins to gather, silently, invisibly, waiting for a point of convergence. This is not imagination, nor is it passivity. It is the still point where pure possibility gathers, not yet shaped by direction or intention. It's the unknown before the known, the moment before form. Stillness is often misunderstood as inaction, but in its truest sense, stillness is density. It's not flat, it's full, so full that movement isn't needed. Think of a storm that pauses before it breaks, or the tension in the air before a profound realization hits. That stillness contains something. It is a field so charged, so whole, that it doesn't need to be loud. In the language of quantum mechanics, this stillness is the meeting place of all possible outcomes. It's the zero-point field, a place not of emptiness, but of total potential. And unlike intention, which points energy in a specific direction, this stillness holds every direction at once. The moment you drop out of the noise, meaning the inner chatter, the explanations, the replays of past events or projections of the future, the signal you emit changes dramatically. It becomes clean. It becomes undistorted. You're no longer sending a dozen mixed frequencies layered with fear, expectation, memory, and hope. Instead, you become like a tuning fork struck once, ringing out a pure, unmixed tone. That tone, uncluttered, uncolored, is what the quantum field reads. Not your words, not your wants, but the imprint you leave when the internal static is gone. And this clear imprint is not constructed. It emerges when nothing else is occupying the space. There is a strange power in neutrality. Not apathy, not avoidance, but neutrality. This is the inner posture, where you are not leaning into any preference, fear, or plan. It is a kind of internal weightlessness. You aren't pulling on reality, nor are you being pulled. In these rare and subtle moments, reality is most responsive. Not because you're forcing it to bend, but because you've stopped distorting its natural movement. It can now default, not to your egoic image, not to your mental projections, but to your core imprint, the one beneath all your thoughts. The one that was always there, even when you were busy thinking. Neutrality is not something you produce. It's what remains when everything else quiets down. When you're not trying to be a certain way, when you aren't playing out your identity or reacting to imagined futures, a kind of gravitational stillness emerges. That stillness isn't passive. It magnetizes, not because it's trying to, but because it isn't interfering. The interference pattern is gone, and in its place is a field that draws reality toward it without asking, without needing, without even signaling desire. This is what makes nothingness so potent. It doesn't broadcast demand. It emits clarity. It doesn't chase. It centers. In those seconds, sometimes only a few, when you are not bound to any storyline, when you're not trying to achieve, prove, or acquire, the deeper intelligence beneath form can move. It is the mind's emptiness that makes space for the architecture of a new pattern to take hold. Without that space, manifestation becomes layered in conflict and contradiction. But in the vacuum, where your presence remains but your commentary dissolves, reality bends itself around that stillness. It doesn't need your opinion. It doesn't need your effort. It only needs the room to unfold. This is why so many shifts in life seem to happen not during intense effort or focused mental planning, but in moments that feel eerily quiet. You walk into a room and forget what you were thinking, and something clicks. You pause mid-sentence, and suddenly an idea arrives. You look at nothing for a few seconds and feel something shift in your body. These are not accidents. These are the brief, rare openings where your internal broadcast clears and the unfiltered blueprint of your essence begins to rise to the surface. It's not that you made it happen. It's that nothing got in the way. Reality does not require constant narration. In fact, narration tends to warp the field. Every thought you have about what's supposed to happen, what should happen, what must happen, becomes a layer between you and what actually wants to unfold. And when those layers fall away, you don't lose your power. You reveal it. You don't lose direction. You become the axis around which direction naturally forms. The more the narration stops, the more the invisible becomes visible, not because you demanded it, but because you made room for it. There is something deeply intelligent about this state of non-interference. In it, your core essence, the part of you that never needed to speak to be known, rises into the foreground. This is what reality responds to, far more than plans or preferences. When that essence is allowed to surface, without being overridden by conscious commands, the field shifts. Not because it was forced, but because it finally had something clear to align with. And that clarity is only possible in stillness. Not the stillness of doing nothing, but the stillness of not adding anything. This is the paradox, that emptiness attracts fullness. That quietness speaks more clearly than noise. That stillness is the point of maximum influence, not because it asserts, but because it reveals. The nothingness you create internally is not a void to be filled with effort, but a portal through which reality begins to align. And this alignment does not arise because you crafted it perfectly. It arises because you stepped out of the way. Stillness, then, becomes not a gap in your progress, but the hidden source of it. A place where all outcomes exist equally, waiting to be shaped not by force, but by presence. The field doesn't need your noise to function, it needs your clarity. And clarity is the child of stillness. Not the kind of stillness that looks good on the outside, but the one that erases the inner turbulence, the need to comment, to define, to chase. When that turbulence fades, you don't become less. You become accurate. You become the precise point around which the quantum begins to move. Not because you pushed, but because you allowed the signal to stabilize in the vacuum of your mind. The less you fill the space, the more space fills you. And in that silent fullness, everything begins. Chapter 3. The Observation Code. Reality. Reads your gaze. There is a silent mechanism always running beneath your everyday life, and it is built on something so simple that most people never realize its power. This mechanism is observation, not thinking, not analyzing, not feeling, but just the raw act of looking, of placing your gaze. Whether you're conscious of it or not, wherever your gaze consistently lands, something in the quantum fabric begins to organize itself around that location. It doesn't require effort or belief. It doesn't ask for emotion or desire. It simply responds to the rhythm of your eyes returning to a certain form, a certain scene, a certain version of life. In the deeper levels of how this world functions, reality doesn't respond because you want something. It responds because you've looked at it often enough. The field of potential we live in is always taking silent measurements, tracking frequency patterns that don't care about whether your observation was joyful, negative, or neutral. What it tracks is repetition. If your gaze keeps returning to the same thing, even if it's casual, even if you're not emotionally involved, the field starts to read that as a pattern worth reinforcing. And once a pattern is reinforced enough, it begins to solidify into a reality thread. This is not about what you believe to be important. It's about where your eyes go. You could be telling yourself that something doesn't matter to you, but if your gaze keeps drifting toward it, the field doesn't listen to your words. It listens to the direction of your observation. Noticing is not passive in the quantum world. It carries weight. In a way, reality uses your gaze to calculate which version of itself to promote, from possibility into probability, and from probability into experience. What you observe over and over again becomes a kind of gravitational point in the field. Each glance, no matter how small, adds energy to that node. The field isn't emotional about it. It doesn't ask if you're observing out of love or fear. It doesn't measure whether you approve or disapprove. All it does is detect frequency. And frequency is built through repetition. When you repeatedly observe a specific condition, scene, behavior, or outcome, the field begins assigning structural priority to that possibility. It slowly starts moving it closer to physical form, not because you decided to, but because you made it familiar. There's no need to be consciously aware of this process for it to be active. That's the beauty and danger of it. You might be observing something without realizing it's shaping your life. A news headline, a friend's habit, a repeated scenario, even something you see out the window each day without giving it much thought. That repeated exposure, visual, spatial exposure, triggers something very mechanical in the underlying structure of reality. You've placed your gaze there enough times that it now carries more weight in the field than other potentials you may actually prefer but rarely look at. This is how certain timelines begin to form, not necessarily from what you think about most, but from what you look at most. In the eyes of the quantum field, your consistent gaze says, "This is real, this is active, this is what we're stabilizing." The more you return to something with your eyes, the more the unformed energy around that thing begins to condense. It shifts from being one of many loose possibilities to becoming a structured probability. Once it stabilizes enough, you begin to encounter it physically, as if it simply happened to you. This is the deeper meaning behind the observer effect. It's not about the act of looking in a philosophical sense. It's about the structural impact of repeated observation on the architecture of time and space. When a particle is observed in physics, it collapses from a cloud of probabilities into a single location. In daily life, a similar thing happens with the events and patterns you observe. They begin to collapse from potentials into experiences. And this happens not because you focused hard or meditated or wanted it. It happens because you kept noticing it. The field doesn't need drama, it just needs consistency. There is a geometry to observation. The direction, distance, and duration of your gaze form a kind of invisible architecture. Imagine your gaze drawing a thread each time it lands on a particular thing. If that thread is laid down enough times, it becomes a bridge. Eventually, that bridge becomes the path you walk. It didn't form because you consciously built it. It formed because you looked there often enough for the quantum to treat it as a map. Reality doesn't need your plans. It needs your pattern. And observation is the most direct way you shape that pattern without even knowing it. This is why environments matter, not just for how they make you feel, but for what they cause you to repeatedly see. If your surroundings contain certain recurring visuals, the field begins to treat those visuals as data points to stabilize. Even if you don't engage with them emotionally, your visual presence marks them as active nodes in your field of probability. The furniture, the architecture, the people, the colors, the symbols, they all begin to imprint simply because your eyes pass over them again and again. This is not magic, it's math. When something is not observed, it remains fluid. It doesn't vanish, it just doesn't crystallize. This is a core law of quantum behavior. Possibilities float until they are selected by consistent observation. Once selected, they begin a slow descent into form. If left unobserved long enough, they dissolve again. They go back into the soup of undifferentiated potential. So the act of observing, repeated over time, becomes like placing pins on a map. Those pins eventually connect, and what they form becomes the shape of your life. This is not about being careful or cautious. It's about understanding that observation is not passive. It's not just a thing you do while doing something else. It's the quiet architect of your world. You don't have to think about something for it to become real. You just have to keep looking at it. Not deliberately, not spiritually, just consistently. That alone is enough to change the arrangement of matter around you. That's how precise this reality is. That's how deeply your gaze matters. In the grand mechanics of this system, there is no filter. The field does not decide what you meant by looking at something. It doesn't ask if it was good or bad. It just registers the repetition. And with each repetition, the space around that subject thickens. It gains a kind of density. It becomes more probable. It enters your world not because you invited it consciously, but because your observation pulled it into place. Quietly, invisibly, undeniably. The gaze doesn't plead. It codes, and the code is written not in your thoughts, but in your seeing. Chapter 4. Frequency Anchors. Why certain environments manifest. Faster. The environments we exist within are not passive backdrops. They are active participants in the unfolding of our reality. Every surface, structure, and placement in the physical world carries a type of coding that interacts directly with the subtle mechanisms behind manifestation. These codes are not visible or obvious to the naked eye, yet they hold a form of organization that influences how quickly or slowly reality takes shape. This influence does not come from thoughts, emotions, or internal states, but from the physical characteristics of the space itself. The environment functions like a tuning fork, either amplifying the formation of certain outcomes or interrupting them. Everything in the physical world vibrates at a specific frequency, and this frequency does not exist in isolation. Walls, furniture, ceilings, materials, and even the angles of a room give off patterns of frequency that either stabilize or distort the field of potential around you. When an environment carries symmetrical, clean, and structurally coherent signals, it creates a supportive field where the collapse of potential into reality becomes more efficient. These spaces hold resonance symmetry. That means the way the shapes, edges, materials, and overall spatial layout interact produces harmony in the surrounding quantum grid. This harmony allows possibilities to crystallize more swiftly and with fewer interruptions. But when that physical space is scattered, chaotic, or made of clashing structural elements, it emits signals that disrupt this natural coherence. Just as interference in a radio signal makes it hard to hear the broadcast clearly, interference in your environment makes it difficult for a clean collapse of potential to occur. The field doesn't reject possibilities, it simply takes longer to resolve them when the environment is filled with misaligned patterns. Clutter is not merely disorder on a visible level. It generates background distortion in the waveform fields that surround and shape events. Some physical environments serve as what could be called frequency anchors. These are locations or structures that stabilize specific quantum patterns and hold the space in a way that naturally supports faster synchronization between idea and form. These anchors do not work because you feel good in them or think clearly inside them. Those aspects belong to different discussions. Instead, they function through design, through material resonance, through geospatial codes that have nothing to do with perception and everything to do with structural feedback loops. The environment holds a blueprint, and when that blueprint matches the underlying structure of a specific reality pattern, manifestation accelerates. Every material, wood, stone, glass, metal, has its own waveform signature. These materials are not equal in their impact. Some absorb and scatter energy, some conduct and amplify it. For instance, materials with crystalline structures naturally reflect and stabilize symmetrical frequencies, which can promote cleaner waveform interactions. The shape of a ceiling, the placement of doorways, and even the angles of corners influence how space holds or disperses these frequencies. Curved lines, proportional layouts, and open alignments often support smoother energetic movement, whereas sharp breaks, boxed spaces, or unbalanced designs can delay coherence. This is why some spaces seem to hold ideas better than others. You might walk into a certain room or building and notice how clearly things begin to align or resolve. Projects complete faster, ideas take shape without resistance, or time itself seems to move differently. This is not your mind adjusting. It's the space anchoring you into a grid that is already harmonized with efficient manifestation pathways. That efficiency exists in the walls, the dimensions, the flow, the absence of distortion. It's not something you bring into the space, it's something the space already provides. Even geolocation plays a critical role. Different areas on the planet emit natural vibrational templates due to the minerals in the ground, the magnetic currents flowing beneath the earth, and the ancient structural memory embedded in the land. These geolocations are not all equal. Some places hold frequencies that accelerate collapse of probability waves into form. Others slow them down. This isn't spiritual, it's energetic architecture. Certain regions have always produced faster outcomes, not because people prayed harder there, but because the environmental grid naturally holds a resonance that matches higher coherence. When your outer environment matches the structure of a reality you wish to experience, the field does not have to do as much work. The surrounding frequency supports the same pattern you're aiming to anchor. It's as if the blueprint already exists, and the quantum field simply fits your unformed potential into that pre-existing shape. The match between the outer structure and the inner pattern creates a fast-track effect. This is not done through desire or willpower. It's done through spatial alignment. You do not push energy into form. The form invites energy to resolve itself because the invitation is structurally sound. Architecture is not just art, it's frequency mathematics. The angles in a room, the materials used, the ceiling height, the ratio of open space to dense form, these are all elements of resonance symmetry. A building with certain proportions can amplify or diminish the stability of energetic interactions. Sacred geometry was not just symbolic. It was a way to design space that naturally assisted the collapse of thought into matter by reducing frequency resistance. Structures that were built using these ratios act as accelerators, whether the person inside them is aware of it or not. This is why two people with the same vision can experience completely different manifestation speeds depending on where they are physically located. It's not their motivation or intention that determines the timeline. It's the field density around them created by the environmental codes. One person may live in a high coherent space where ideas move into form without delay. Another may be surrounded by structural friction, where every step forward is slowed by environmental incoherence. The difference lies not in effort, but in alignment between space and pattern. Frequency anchors work in the background, always active, always participating. They don't need you to understand them in order to influence outcomes. They are not activated by mindset, they are activated by design. The more an environment holds symmetry, clarity, and material resonance, the more quickly it invites energy to stabilize into visible outcomes. The physical world is not waiting for your thoughts to change. It is responding to the templates it is already holding. And when those templates match what is ready to form, reality does not hesitate. It simply forms. Chapter 5. The Identity Loop. You're manifesting your self-concept, not your wishes. The quantum field responds to the subtle yet powerful energy of identity, not to the explicit language of desires or requests. This is an often overlooked dynamic in the process of manifestation. At the core of every creation, whether it is a personal achievement, material possession, or relationship, is the underlying structure of who you believe yourself to be. The energy of manifestation does not revolve around the idea of obtaining something external. It is centered around the reflection of your self-concept. In simpler terms, what you manifest is directly tied to how the quantum field perceives and organizes your identity, rather than just responding to a wish list of desires. The field does not respond to individual wishes in isolation. Instead, it aligns with your baseline assumptions about yourself, those deeply ingrained beliefs and self-perceptions that shape your actions, thoughts, and reactions. If your internal framework tells you that you are someone who struggles with money, love, or health, the field will not prioritize your desire for abundance, ease, or fulfillment. It will prioritize the reality you are internally structured to receive, what you believe you deserve, based on who you think you are. This is why many find that, despite their best efforts to manifest specific outcomes, they repeatedly find themselves facing the same circumstances or frustrations. The identity you carry with you every day is what the field reads most accurately, and it organizes the world around you accordingly. Even if these roles or self-concepts are invisible to your conscious mind, they are deeply ingrained and form the framework for how you experience reality. These internalized self-concepts are like invisible threads that weave the tapestry of your life. If, for example, you identify as someone who is always overlooked in relationships or unable to succeed in a certain area, the quantum field organizes events around this identity. This process happens behind the scenes, influencing what comes to you, often in ways that feel automatic or beyond your control. The energy of your self-concept is so strong that it shapes your interactions, decisions, and even the opportunities that appear in your life, ensuring that they align with your perception of yourself. The true nature of manifestation isn't about amplifying your wishes or desires. It's about addressing and shifting the self-concept that underlies them. Every desire, regardless of how strong or intense it may seem, is filtered through the lens of your identity. If the desire contradicts the identity you hold, the field has no choice but to reject it, or at best, delay it. For instance, if you wish for a loving relationship but subconsciously view yourself as unworthy of love, the field will not align with the desire for love because it conflicts with your deeper identity. The field does not operate based on the intensity or volume of your desires. It operates based on the coherence of your identity with the desired outcome. It can only bring into your experience what aligns with your concept of self. Shifts in your reality, therefore, do not occur simply because you amplify or focus on your wishes. They happen when you destabilize the identity loop that has been holding the old patterns in place. These identity loops are self-reinforcing. Each time you identify with a particular role or story, the quantum field reorganizes itself around that identity. Breaking free from this loop requires a radical change in how you see yourself. It is not about wanting something more, but changing the fundamental belief you hold about your own existence. When you destabilize this loop, you make space for a new identity to emerge, one that is in alignment with the desires you've been trying to manifest. The shift then occurs naturally, without the need for forceful effort. In essence, manifestation is not about wishing harder or asking more fervently. It's about shifting the lens through which you view yourself and the world. The quantum field responds to the essence of who you are, not the specific desires you try to impose upon it. When your internal self-concept aligns with the possibilities you seek to create, the field can only reflect that coherence. This is why, in many cases, efforts to manifest external changes often fall short. If your identity does not support the change cannot fully materialize. It's like trying to pour new wine into an old bottle. The vessel needs to be changed to accommodate what's inside. This is why true transformation begins with the internal work of redefining who you are at the most fundamental level. The universe does not simply respond to what you want, it responds to who you believe yourself to be. If you shift your identity to match the desires you seek, the manifestation process becomes effortless. The field, which is constantly reorganizing itself around your identity, can only mirror back to you what you authentically are. The energy you project through your self-concept becomes the organizing force that determines your reality. Therefore, the key to unlocking a new reality is not about amplifying your desires, but about realigning your self-concept to match the life you wish to create. The journey of manifestation, therefore, requires a profound understanding of how the quantum field reads identity. Your wishes and desires are not seen in isolation, but are understood within the context of who you perceive yourself to be. The field does not need you to plead or beg for your desires to be fulfilled. It simply needs your identity to match what you seek. If your identity is in alignment with your desires, the manifestation will unfold naturally. When your internal self-image is coherent with the external world you wish to experience, the gap between thought and manifestation disappears. Manifestation, therefore, is a reflection of your inner world. The quantum field doesn't simply hear your desires, it reads your identity, and it organizes itself around the core assumptions you carry about yourself. Changing your self-concept is the true work of manifestation. Only when you transform your identity will the reality around you begin to shift. The more aligned your identity is with the reality you seek, the more effortlessly the field will collapse your desires into form. Chapter 6. Time Reversal. The desire already happened. Backwards. In quantum terms, manifestation occurs in a way that defies the conventional understanding of time. The event you desire is not something that will appear in the future, but rather it already exists in a different form, retroactively embedded in your field. The experience of time in the quantum realm is not linear, unlike how we perceive it in our everyday lives. For the quantum field, past, present, and future are interconnected in ways that we, as individuals, often fail to recognize. What this means is that the manifestation you're working toward has already occurred in the nonlinear realm of quantum potential. You are not actually creating the event from scratch. Rather, you are aligning with an already existing possibility that is waiting to unfold through your perception. Your desire is already alive, albeit in a form outside the usual progression of time. This might be a difficult concept to grasp, especially because our understanding of time is based on a chronological structure that is ingrained deeply in our consciousness. We think of past, present, and future as a sequential flow. The past has already occurred, the present is what is happening now, and the future is what is coming next. However, this is not how the quantum field operates. In fact, the idea of time being a strict progression is more of a construct that allows us to make sense of our physical reality. The quantum field, on the other hand, does not operate in such a linear fashion. In quantum mechanics, all possible outcomes exist simultaneously in a state of potential until they are observed or interacted with, collapsing into a specific reality. When you desire something, you are not trying to create it out of nothing. Instead, you are aligning with a version of reality where that desire already exists in the quantum substrate. The reason why manifestation often appears to be delayed or stretched out in time is because our perception of time is linear. The manifestation process unfolds based on the sequence of our awareness and experience. But in quantum reality, the future you are anticipating is already a reflection of a choice that has already been made in a parallel timeline. The desire you are working to fulfill in the present is not an event that will come to pass in the future. It is a version of you from another timeline, another moment, that has already chosen to align with this desired outcome. This means that the manifestation is not something you are making happen in real time. Rather, you are catching up to it, moving through the layers of time to align with a version of reality where your desire is already fulfilled. This notion also explains the strange phenomenon of déjà vu, particularly in moments when your desires begin to materialize. Déjà vu is often described as the sense that an event has already happened, even though it is seemingly occurring for the first time. From a quantum perspective, déjà vu can be understood as the recognition of a past event that is aligned with a future manifestation. It's not that you've lived the moment before in a literal sense. Rather, you are experiencing the echo of the desire already fulfilled. The event you are witnessing feels familiar because, in the quantum realm, that fulfillment already exists. Your current experience is simply catching up to that fulfillment, reflecting it as if it has already taken place in your timeline. It's a glimpse into the nature of time reversal, where the future is already present, and you are just now aligning with its unfolding. When we understand manifestation from the perspective of time reversal, it becomes clear that we are not creating something out of thin air. Instead, we are tuning into a particular frequency where our desires already exist. You are not bringing something into existence. You are aligning with the version of reality where your desires have already been fulfilled. The reality that we experience is not a blank slate that we paint with our desires, but rather an ongoing interaction with a series of probable outcomes. These outcomes are constantly unfolding through your alignment with them, based on your actions, choices, and observations. But the quantum field is already structured in such a way that the desired event is there, waiting for you to catch up with it. Your role, then, is not one of creation in the traditional sense, but one of resonance and alignment with that which already exists in the quantum field. This process also helps to explain why sometimes manifestation feels so effortless and natural, as if the desired outcome is merely flowing into your life. It is not an intense effort that brings it into being. It is a natural alignment with the version of yourself and the world where the desire is already fulfilled. When you are in sync with that timeline, the event appears as though it is simply happening, as though it was always meant to be. This is because the event was already part of the quantum fabric, and you are just now aligning with the unfolding of that potential. It's like tuning a musical instrument. The sound is already there, but it only becomes audible when the instrument is in tune. The quantum field is always present, and your manifestation is merely the process of fine-tuning your awareness to the frequency of the desired outcome. What's important to recognize in this model of manifestation is that time itself is not a barrier. The quantum field is timeless, and your desires exist in a space where time does not operate in the same way as in our physical reality. The feeling of waiting for something to manifest is a result of our perception of time. In truth, everything exists simultaneously in the quantum field, and all possibilities are available to you at once. The process of manifestation is simply the process of aligning your perception and experience with a specific version of reality where your desires have already been fulfilled. The gap between your desire and its realization is the space in which you are catching up with that fulfillment. Manifestation in this light can feel less like a struggle or a race to create something, and more like a gentle unfolding of events that were always meant to be. The quantum field does not need to be forced into creation. It is already there, existing in parallel timelines, waiting for your awareness to align with it. By shifting your perspective and understanding time as a fluid concept, you begin to see that the manifestation process is less about effort and more about alignment. The desire has already happened in another timeline. You are simply aligning with it. Chapter 7. Thought Echoes. The Silent Architect. Behind form. Most thoughts we experience are not the architects of our reality. Rather, they are echoes that reflect what is already structurally active in the quantum field. In other words, thoughts don't create new outcomes from nothing. Instead, they are reflections of underlying forces or patterns that are already present within the quantum field. These thought echoes arise from deeper, often unconscious layers of the mind, carrying with them the imprint of our past experiences, deeply held assumptions, and ongoing mental loops. The quantum field does not respond to the content of our thoughts in the way we might believe. Instead, it responds to the subtle frequency of thought, particularly those that are repeated and persistent, even if we do not consciously recognize or direct them. The power of thought lies not in its conscious intention, but in the repetition of ideas that become ingrained over time. This repetitive mental activity creates a kind of resonance with the quantum field, shaping the external world more than the fleeting conscious desires we may express. We often believe that in order to manifest a desired outcome, we need to think intensely about it, visualizing the result or declaring our intentions repeatedly. However, the true shaping force in reality comes not from our conscious, forceful thinking, but from the quieter, more subtle mental habits that run in the background of our awareness. These habitual thought patterns, which often go unnoticed, have a far greater influence on the world we experience than any single desire or thought we may actively focus on. These background mental loops are what sculpt the reality around us. They form the silent, hidden architecture that determines the stability of external conditions. For instance, if a person habitually thinks thoughts of scarcity or limitation, even in the background of their mind, the quantum field responds by shaping external experiences to match those beliefs. These unnoticed thought patterns, often shaped by early life experiences or societal conditioning, are the ones that dictate the reality we experience day in and day out. It is not the loud, conscious desires that truly shape reality, but the quiet, repetitive echoes of the mind that consistently reinforce the structures of the world around us. Over time, these thought patterns become so deeply ingrained that we cease to recognize their power, allowing them to operate in the background like a hidden force constantly shaping our experience. The key to understanding the impact of thought echoes lies in recognizing that quantum response time is not based on the content of a thought, but rather on the frequency of the echo behind it. The quantum field doesn't care if a thought is a wish or a fear. It only responds to the frequency with which the thought resonates. The more frequently a thought is repeated, the more it reinforces the vibrational pattern in the quantum field. This resonance causes certain outcomes to materialize more easily, not because the thought itself is more powerful, but because it is part of a consistent pattern that the quantum field begins to recognize and respond to. Whether you are consciously aware of these thoughts or not, the field responds to their frequency and aligns your experience with the dominant vibration they carry. This is why transformation of external circumstances is not always about consciously trying to manifest something new, but rather about addressing the thought patterns that are already in place. If the thought echoes we repeat are consistently aligned with scarcity, fear, or limitation, then the quantum field will reflect that back to us in the form of external circumstances. On the other hand, if these mental loops shift toward patterns of abundance, possibility, and growth, The quantum field responds in kind, manifesting a reality that mirrors these new thought structures. The process of manifestation, therefore, is less about forceful thinking or demanding outcomes, and more about becoming aware of and reshaping the background thought patterns that are continuously shaping our reality. The silent architect behind form, then, is not an active force or willpower, but rather the subtle, ongoing presence of thought that reverberates through time. These thought echoes shape the very fabric of our lives by influencing how we perceive the world, what we believe is possible, and how we react to our circumstances. The reality we live in is not built on single moments of clarity or intention, but rather on the consistent, repeated thoughts that weave the structure of our experience. It is the quiet, unnoticed thoughts that have the most profound impact, as they are the ones that remain stable over time, gradually guiding the unfolding of events and circumstances in our lives. As such, the key to shifting reality is not to focus on changing every fleeting thought that passes through the mind. It is about recognizing the powerful influence of repetitive thought patterns and understanding how they shape the world around us. To change the reality you experience, it is necessary to identify and transform these background thought loops, which have often been running unchecked for years. By bringing awareness to these hidden patterns, it becomes possible to slowly shift their frequency, which in turn alters the way the quantum field responds to your presence. As the dominant frequency of your thoughts shifts, so too will the external conditions that reflect those thoughts, bringing about a new reality that aligns with your true desires. The quantum field responds to thought not as a series of individual isolated moments, but as a coherent pattern. The more consistent and stable the thought pattern, the more powerful its influence becomes. This is why even seemingly small, unnoticed thoughts have such a profound effect. They create the groundwork for future manifestations, setting the stage for how the quantum field will organize your reality. This is why breaking free from old thought loops is so essential in transforming one's experience of life. By reprogramming the background mental patterns, the entire structure of reality can shift, as the quantum field will then reflect the new vibrational frequency in the form of different external circumstances. In conclusion, the silent, unnoticed nature of thought echoes is what gives them their power to shape the external world. The content of your thoughts does not matter nearly as much as the consistency with which they are repeated. It is not the intensity of your desires that dictates your reality, but the ongoing mental habits that you hold in the background. The quantum field is listening to those frequencies, and it responds to them in ways that influence the world around you. Understanding this principle allows you to begin shifting the foundational patterns of your reality by simply becoming aware of and altering the thought echoes that guide it. Chapter 8. The Micro-Choice Gateway. The hidden engine behind major reality. Shifts. Reality is constantly shifting, and yet these changes often seem invisible, unremarkable, or even coincidental. The truth is, the most significant shifts in the fabric of our existence often arise from the smallest and most overlooked actions. These micro-choices, the tiny, seemingly insignificant decisions we make every day, are the true driving forces behind the unfolding of our reality. The quantum field does not respond to grand gestures or large-scale changes. Rather, it operates on a much subtler level, where it recognizes the consistency of micro-choices. These small, repeated actions accumulate over time, creating a ripple effect that ultimately leads to major shifts in our life trajectory. The quantum field operates by registering the consistency of these micro-choices rather than the magnitude of individual actions. In the quantum realm, it is not the scale of the change that matters, but the consistency with which it is made. A single large act, no matter how dramatic, may appear to make a difference in the moment, but it is the small, repetitive adjustments that have the true power to alter the course of reality. Every time a small choice is made, whether it's a thought, an action, or a shift in perception, the quantum field registers it. And over time, this collection of micro-choices compounds, causing a subtle yet profound divergence from the expected timeline. For example, consider the way that minor habits, thoughts, or actions, repeated day after day, shape who we become. It may not seem like much to choose to focus on something positive instead of dwelling on the negative for a moment, but when done consistently, it shifts the energetic structure of the quantum field. Each small choice subtly redirects the trajectory of life, much like a tiny shift in the angle of a moving object can cause it to land in an entirely different location. These seemingly insignificant choices stack up over time, causing us to veer off course from the path we once thought was inevitable. This subtle redirection happens not in grand, conscious acts, but in the unnoticed, almost imperceptible decisions we make without even realizing their impact. These micro-choices are often dismissed as mere coincidences or habits. We may not give much thought to them, assuming they are inconsequential in the grand scheme of things. In fact, we are conditioned to think that significant change only occurs through major events or decisions. Yet the quantum field operates differently. It responds not to moments of intensity, but to consistency. Each micro-choice, no matter how small, is like a seed planted in the soil of our reality, and over time, the accumulation of these seeds grows into something much larger and more meaningful. The invisible gates of change are often mistaken for random occurrences, yet they are anything but random. They are the quiet, powerful forces behind the shaping of our lives. The quantum field does not announce its changes loudly or dramatically. Instead, change is gradual, silent, and accumulative. In the same way that a river carves out a canyon over millennia with its constant flow of water, micro-choices build the structure of our reality. This is why it can often feel like nothing is changing, even when we are making efforts to alter our life. The truth is, quantum change is not an event that occurs with a loud bang. It is a subtle process that stacks itself through countless unremarkable moments. The reality we experience is the result of countless micro-choices made over time, each one laying the groundwork for the next. These moments may seem insignificant in isolation, but together they create a powerful shift in the overall structure of our existence. This process can be understood through the metaphor of a compass. Imagine that every micro-choice you make is like adjusting the needle of a compass by a fraction of a degree. At first, the difference seems negligible, but over time these small adjustments compound, and the difference in direction becomes vast. A tiny, almost imperceptible change in your focus, your actions, or your thought patterns can lead to an entirely different reality, because the accumulation of micro-choices alters the course of your quantum timeline. The concept of micro-choices challenges the traditional view of manifestation and change, which often centers around grand decisions, powerful intentions, or life-changing events. While these large acts certainly have their place, it is the small daily choices that form the true foundation of our reality. It is easy to overlook the power of these micro-choices because they are subtle, quiet, and often feel inconsequential. Yet, when viewed through the lens of quantum physics, we see that these small shifts are the building blocks of all major reality changes. Just as tiny grains of sand over time can erode mountains, so too can the smallest actions, over time, create monumental shifts in our lives. One of the reasons why micro-choices are so powerful is that they operate below the level of conscious awareness. Because we are not consciously focused on these actions, they bypass the usual mental resistance or filtering processes we might apply to more significant decisions. In this way, micro-choices can sidestep the usual barriers that limit our potential for change. This is why they are so effective in creating lasting transformation. They bypass the conscious mind, allowing the quantum field to respond without the interference of doubt, fear, or overthinking. Furthermore, micro-choices are flexible and can be made in any moment. Because they are small and seemingly insignificant, they offer an endless array of opportunities for change throughout the day. Each moment holds the potential for a small shift, a minor decision that can subtly alter the path we are on. These micro-choices are not bound by time or space. They are accessible in every moment, which makes them incredibly powerful tools for creating change. The more consistently these small shifts are made, the more profound the cumulative effect becomes. Ultimately, the hidden engine behind major reality shifts is the accumulation of micro-choices. These unnoticed, unremarkable actions, when repeated consistently over time, shift the trajectory of our lives in ways that are often imperceptible in the moment, but profound in the long run. The quantum field does not respond to grand gestures or large, singular decisions. It responds to the subtle, quiet choices we make repeatedly, the micro-choices that shape our energetic imprint and alter the course of our reality. Through this process, reality itself slowly diverges as the consistent, cumulative effect of these micro-choices creates a new, more aligned timeline. Chapter 9. Manifestation Friction. When two desires cancel each other out. When it comes to manifestation, the energetic field operates on a principle of coherence, meaning that it is naturally inclined to respond to clear, consistent signals. However, when two desires are in direct conflict with one another, the quantum field faces a challenge in determining which one to prioritize. This conflict creates a form of vibrational cancellation where the energies of each desire neutralize each other, preventing either from fully materializing. The quantum field, in its inherent nature, can only work with clear, unambiguous instructions, but when faced with mixed signals, it defaults to neutrality. This means that neither desire is fully realized, as both energies are in opposition to one another, leaving the manifestation potential in a state of suspended possibility. At the heart of this friction often lie hidden, auxiliary desires that are not immediately apparent in our conscious awareness. While we may think we desire something specific, such as financial abundance or a fulfilling career, there are often deeper, more subtle desires that are at play beneath the surface. These auxiliary desires, such as a yearning for comfort, stability, or familiarity, can quietly override or dilute the more prominent desire. For instance, the desire for financial success may conflict with an unrecognized desire for security or safety, which manifests as a subtle reluctance to take the necessary risks or steps to achieve that success. In this case, the quantum field detects the subtle preference for comfort and stability and will align with this energy instead of the primary outward desire. Thus, the energy that the universe is responding to becomes diluted, leading to a lack of movement or a delay in manifestation. Friction also arises when desires are in competition for different identity states. The identity we hold about ourselves serves as a filter for how we perceive and interact with the world around us. Our desires are often shaped by the identity we carry, and when different desires require us to shift into conflicting versions of ourselves, it creates a sense of internal dissonance. For example, if you desire to become an entrepreneur but simultaneously identify with the role of a secure, risk-averse employee, these two desires cannot coexist harmoniously. The identity linked to security and comfort will create resistance to the entrepreneurial aspirations, causing internal friction. As the quantum field operates based on the identity structure we hold, it responds to the dominant identity state, reinforcing that reality over the other. In this case, the desire to remain in a secure, predictable role may cancel out the desire to take the entrepreneurial leap. This internal conflict leads to a kind of energy blockage where neither desire can fully materialize because the quantum field cannot prioritize mixed signals. It is not that the field does not hear the desires. Rather, it is overwhelmed by the contradictions within them. The field works by responding to a dominant frequency, a clear signal that tells it where to focus its energy. When two conflicting desires are present, the field cannot allocate resources to both at once, so it defaults to the one that has the most consistent or dominant frequency. This means that the desire that is more deeply ingrained or that has the strongest supporting frequency, whether conscious or unconscious, will be the one that the field aligns with, while the other is sidelined. The result is that neither desire reaches full manifestation, as the quantum field is effectively in a state of confusion. Manifestation friction, in essence, is not a failure of the quantum field to respond, but rather a consequence of mixed, contradictory signals being sent out. The field is always responding, but its response is based on the clarity of the frequency. When there is vibrational contradiction between two desires, the field cannot prioritize one over the other and will instead reflect the dominant vibration, leading to a manifestation that aligns with whichever frequency is most prevalent. This is why clarity of desire is so crucial in the manifestation process. It is not about how strongly we want something or how much effort we put into it, but about the consistency and purity of the signal we are emitting into the quantum field. The key to overcoming manifestation friction is not simply deciding which desire is stronger or more important, but rather removing the contradiction that exists between the two. Clarity, in this sense, is not a mental decision or intellectual choice. It is a process of dissolving vibrational contradictions, of aligning all aspects of your being with the singular desire you wish to manifest. This means that the process of manifestation is less about forcefully focusing on a desire and more about harmonizing your internal energies. It is about identifying and releasing the auxiliary desires, those hidden desires for comfort, stability, or familiarity, that are unconsciously competing with the primary desire. It involves examining the different identities that you hold and ensuring that they are aligned with the desired outcome. For example, if you desire to move to a new city for a fresh start, but secretly crave the comfort and security of your current surroundings, you may experience friction in your manifestation process. The desire for adventure is in direct conflict with the desire for familiarity, and as a result, the quantum field will struggle to bring the new reality into focus. To remove the friction, you must first acknowledge this internal conflict and consciously choose to align your energy with the desired outcome. This may involve releasing the attachment to comfort and safety, allowing your identity to shift towards one that embraces change and growth. By doing so, you are clearing the way for the quantum field to respond to a singular, clear signal. The process of clearing manifestation friction requires patience and introspection. It is not enough to simply identify the external desires. One must also look inward and examine the underlying energetic structure that is shaping those desires. What hidden desires, fears, or attachments are present that may be hindering the manifestation process? What subconscious beliefs or assumptions about yourself are keeping you from fully embracing your primary desire? Once these internal contradictions are recognized and dissolved, the manifestation process can unfold more smoothly and swiftly. Ultimately, manifestation friction is a result of competing desires, hidden desires that override primary desires, and the presence of conflicting identity states. The quantum field cannot respond to contradictory signals, and it defaults to the dominant frequency. Clarity in the context of manifestation is the removal of vibrational contradiction, allowing for a pure and consistent signal to be sent into the field. This clarity enables the field to respond more effectively, bringing the desired reality into alignment. Chapter 10. The Language of Geometry. How Shape Manifests Form. The way quantum fields organize reality is rooted in geometrical symmetry, not in abstract meanings or symbolic interpretations. At its core, the quantum field operates through a fundamental structure that can be understood as a form of energetic arrangement, where everything is connected by invisible threads of geometrical patterns. These patterns shape the way energy flows and manifests in the physical world, influencing the materialization of thoughts, desires, and even emotions. Geometry in its purest form is not just a mathematical concept, but an expression of the underlying coherence that binds all things. While humans often perceive meaning in symbols or numerical arrangements, the quantum field is not concerned with the symbolism behind shapes or their esoteric interpretations. Instead, it responds to the structural arrangement of energy that manifests through those shapes. The relationship between geometry and manifestation can be seen most clearly in the way the body interacts with space and movement. Every posture you adopt, every motion you make, influences the energy you project into the quantum field. The physical body itself is a vessel through which geometry unfolds. How you carry yourself, whether open and expansive or closed and restrictive, has a direct impact on how the energy around you organizes itself. If your body maintains a posture of openness, such as standing tall with an open chest, you create a sense of alignment and flow that resonates with the quantum field in a specific way. This arrangement allows the frequencies you project to become more coherent, making them easier for the field to respond to. On the other hand, a posture of contraction with slumped shoulders or a hunched back sends a different energetic signal, one that may interfere with the flow of manifestation. The body's spatial relationship to itself and to its surroundings is a critical element in shaping the frequencies that the quantum field will amplify or diminish. Certain shape-based patterns or geometric structures have the ability to amplify the density of thought forms, turning them from abstract energy into material reality. This is why environments that adhere to specific geometrical forms, such as open spaces or well-proportioned rooms, can have a profound effect on the energy that moves through them. In a room with sharp corners or cramped spaces, the energy is often disrupted, causing a feeling of restriction or stagnation. The geometry of the environment reflects back the energy you project, either supporting or hindering its manifestation. A room with harmonious proportions, on the other hand, allows for a smoother flow of energy, amplifying the intentions that are present within the space. The arrangement of physical objects, the angles they form, and the flow of space itself all contribute to how your thought forms are shaped and how they eventually materialize. This is not about conscious intention or choice, but about the inherent geometric patterns that govern the universe and the way they manifest in the material world. Internal geometry also plays a crucial role in the manifestation process. Just as external geometric arrangements influence the way energy flows in the world, the internal coherence between different systems in the body, such as the heart, brain, and gut, shapes how energy is organized within the individual. When these systems are in alignment, the energy flows smoothly, creating a coherent internal geometry that facilitates manifestation. The heart's electromagnetic field, the brain's thought patterns, and the gut's intuitive wisdom all communicate with one another through a form of geometric resonance. When they are in sync, they send a unified signal to the quantum field, making it easier for desired outcomes to materialize. If, however, there is disharmony between these systems, such as when the brain's desires conflict with the gut's instincts or the heart's emotional guidance, the energy becomes fragmented and less effective. This misalignment creates a disjointed geometry that disrupts the coherence of your intentions, leading to scattered or incomplete manifestations. Just as the geometry of the external world influences energy, the internal geometry of the body dictates how those external energies are received and organized. The quantum field, in its most fundamental form, does not respond to words or thoughts in the way we typically understand them. While human beings often think of manifestation in terms of mental focus or affirmations, the true language of the quantum field is form. This is why physicality, shape, and structure are so crucial to the manifestation process. The quantum field recognizes and responds to the arrangement of energy in space, how energy is organized and aligned with the desires you hold. Words and thoughts may be the catalysts for setting intentions, but it is the structural alignment, the geometry of your body, your environment, and your energy that allows the manifestation process to unfold. The field does not interpret your thoughts in a linear intellectual way. Instead, it reads the energetic shape that those thoughts create in the universe, responding to the coherence or dissonance within that form. This is why geometry is not just a physical science. It is the very language of the universe. Every shape, from the smallest particle to the vast expanse of galaxies, is a reflection of geometric patterns that govern the nature of reality itself. These patterns are not arbitrary, they are the underlying blueprints that shape the fabric of the cosmos. When we work with geometry consciously, whether through our posture, our environment, or our internal energy systems, we are aligning ourselves with these universal blueprints, allowing us to manifest in harmony with the cosmic order. Just as a seed grows into a tree according to its inherent geometry, so too do our desires take shape when they are aligned with the underlying principles of form and structure. In the context of manifestation, understanding the language of geometry means recognizing that every thought and desire you hold creates a specific form in the quantum field. This form is not defined by its symbolic meaning or intellectual significance, but by its geometric coherence. It is through this coherence that the field is able to respond, shaping the material world to reflect the forms you project. The clearer and more aligned your internal and external geometries are, the more effectively the field can manifest your desires. In this way, geometry is not just a tool for manifestation, it is the very language through which the universe listens and responds. By understanding and working with this language, we can more effectively bring our desires into material reality, aligning with the deep, hidden order that governs all creation. Chapter 11. Quantum Silence. The Power of Untransmitted Signals. In the vast and often misunderstood realm of manifestation, there is a quiet yet profound truth. Unspoken intention holds a unique power that surpasses the spoken word. When intentions are not voiced or articulated, they retain a level of purity and potency that is difficult to achieve through language. Silence, in this context, is not merely the absence of sound. It is the compression of energy, a state where the quantum field is exposed to the unfiltered essence of intent. When you refrain from expressing a desire verbally, the energy of that desire remains undiluted, without the distortion that often comes with language. In this space of silence, the field is free to respond with greater precision because the intent is not clouded by external influences or misinterpretations. The power of non-expressed intent is often more subtle, but its effects are far-reaching. When you desire something and keep it within, without speaking it aloud, you create an undistracted, focused signal that resonates deeply within the quantum field. The energetic imprint of your intention remains compact, dense, and clear. In contrast, when you vocalize a desire, the energy is scattered, and the signal becomes less concentrated. The words themselves carry a vibration that can interfere with the original frequency of your intention. As a result, the quantum field responds to the vibrations of your speech, which may not be perfectly aligned with your true, unspoken desire. In silence, however, the message remains unbroken, its clarity intact, and its power unchallenged by the limitations of language. When you speak about your desires, you often shift your focus outward, toward the reaction or validation of others. This external focus diffuses your energy and makes it harder for the quantum field to pinpoint the exact nature of your intention. By sharing your desire with the world, you invite a level of uncertainty and expectation into the process. The quantum field does not respond to the audience or the social context surrounding your desire. It responds to the energy you emit. Speaking about a desire creates an external disturbance that can weaken the signal as your focus moves away from the internal, energetic alignment needed for manifestation. Instead of remaining focused on your pure intention, you become distracted by the reactions of others or the expectations you have placed on the manifestation process. The true strength of manifestation occurs when it is held in energetic privacy, when the desire remains an intimate experience between you and the quantum field. In this space of energetic privacy, the desire is free from external scrutiny, free from the need for validation or approval. The manifestation process becomes an internal, private matter, untouched by the opinions, doubts, or expectations of others. In this sacred space, the signal is not weakened by external noise. The field can then respond with greater efficiency, as it is not dealing with the complexity of external influences. There is no need to prove or announce your intentions to anyone but yourself, and in this stillness, the most powerful manifestations begin to unfold. When a desire is held in silence, it also becomes more focused. Silence enables the energy to settle and become more aligned with the quantum structure of reality. Just as a whisper can carry more weight than a loud proclamation, so too can a silent intention hold more power than one spoken aloud. The act of holding a desire without verbalizing it can create an energetic vacuum, pulling the desired outcome toward you. The quantum field, attuned to the pure frequency of intention, responds to this stillness with remarkable accuracy. In contrast, when intentions are vocalized or spread outward, they lose some of their power because they are no longer contained in their original undisturbed state. Moreover, there is an aspect of intention that transcends human language, an energy that words simply cannot capture. The unspoken desire, the one that exists in the space between thoughts, is often the most potent. It is a frequency that cannot be precisely defined, yet it carries a deep and undeniable force. This energy is not filtered through the limitations of language, which inherently imposes structure and meaning on the raw potential of desire. Without words to constrain it, the quantum field can more easily interpret the intention and manifest it according to its purest form. The untransmitted signal in all its silence holds an integrity that is often lost when desires are framed in the context of language. The rawness of the intention remains intact, which is why unspoken desires often manifest with greater clarity and precision. The act of verbalizing a desire introduces a level of complexity that can interfere with the process. When you speak your desire, you bring it into the world of duality, where it must be processed, understood, and interpreted. Language inherently carries the limitations of human perception and experience. Words can only approximate the essence of a desire, not fully encapsulate its true frequency. The quantum field, in all its vastness and complexity, does not interpret language as humans do. Instead, it responds to frequencies, vibrations that are direct and unambiguous. When you speak your desire aloud, the quantum field does not hear your words. It detects the energy behind them, which may be distorted by the meaning and structure you attach to the words. In silence, this distortion is avoided, and the energy is allowed to flow unimpeded. The power of silence is also evident in the subtlety of manifestation. The most profound shifts in reality often occur when you least expect them, when you are not consciously trying to make something happen. This is because the quantum field does not operate on the same timeline as human perception. What might appear to be a delayed manifestation is often the result of silent, unspoken intentions that have been accumulating energy and preparing to materialize. In this way, silence becomes a powerful tool for manifestation because it creates space for the universe to work on its own terms without interference from the conscious mind. When desires are held in silence, they move with a quiet intensity, often bypassing the limitations of conscious intention and directly aligning with the field's natural rhythm. The power of untransmitted signals lies in their ability to bypass the distractions and distortions that come with language and external validation. In silence, the field receives the pure essence of your desire, unaltered and untainted by external forces. This makes the manifestation process more efficient as the energy remains undisturbed and the quantum field can respond more accurately. The most powerful manifestations are often those that occur in quiet, private spaces, those moments when you are aligned with your deepest desires without the need for external expression. It is in this space of quiet, unspoken intent that the quantum field responds with clarity and precision, allowing your desires to materialize with ease. Chapter 12. The Receptivity Paradox. Why needing nothing attracts everything. Receptivity in the quantum field is often misunderstood as a passive act of simply opening up or being ready to receive. In reality, true receptivity is not about reaching out with an open hand or waiting for something to come. Instead, it is the absence of resistance created by the energy of expectation. When you expect something, you subtly create a form of resistance that disrupts the flow of energy. Expectation implies a need, a desire, or a gap between what is and what you think should be. This gap disrupts the natural state of equilibrium, preventing the field from responding in the most efficient way. In contrast, when you release this need for something to happen or manifest, you remove the blockages that would otherwise interfere with the natural flow of energy. The quantum field operates through a principle of energetic equilibrium, meaning that it always seeks balance. When you let go of the pressure to make things happen or force a particular outcome, you create a kind of energetic neutrality. In this state, there is no internal struggle, no tight grasping, no mental or emotional effort pushing against the current of life. When you stop trying to make things happen, you align more fully with the natural flow of the quantum field. In essence, the field fulfills by default through the principle of equilibrium, filling any energetic void created by neutrality with exactly what is in alignment with your true frequency. This act of allowing is not a passive waiting, but rather the energetic release of all forms of resistance that would otherwise block or distort the flow of energy. The key to this process lies in the concept of needing nothing. When you no longer need something, when you remove the emotional or mental urgency to acquire it, you send out a signal of perfect alignment to the quantum field. The field, attuned to the natural resonance of your being, responds by matching your frequency. This process is not about struggle or striving, but rather about becoming a perfect energetic match for what you desire. The moment you stop needing something is the moment the energetic shift occurs. In the quantum field, the collapse of timelines happens almost instantaneously when you reach this state of neutrality. There is no longer any obstruction to the manifestation process, and what was once perceived as a separate timeline begins to merge with your current reality. In this state of neutrality, the field rushes to fill the energetic vacuum created by your lack of resistance. It is as though the field is eagerly waiting for the opportunity to respond to the absence of any resistance or interference. In quantum terms, when there is no internal struggle or external grasping, the space around you becomes clear, allowing the universe to bring forth whatever is necessary to restore balance. The concept of a vacuum is key here, as it is in the absence of matter or resistance that new things can emerge. The field, like nature, abhors a vacuum, and so it rushes to fill the space you have created with exactly what aligns with your core frequency. This is why, in moments when you least expect it, opportunities, people, or situations seem to appear out of nowhere. The quantum field is simply responding to the empty space you've created by removing your need. The paradox here is that the less you seek, the more you find. This is a concept that contradicts our usual approach to manifestation, where we are often taught that we must actively pursue our desires, chase after them, or work hard to bring them into being. However, the quantum field operates differently. In the quantum world, seeking is a form of resistance. The more you seek, the more you energetically communicate that what you want is separate from you, that it is outside of your current reality. Seeking implies a lack, an incompleteness, and this vibrational frequency is not aligned with the energy needed for manifestation. On the other hand, when you stop seeking, when you let go of the need to pursue, you naturally align with the energy that allows manifestation to occur without force. In the absence of seeking, the field aligns with your core resonance. Your true essence is a constant vibrational frequency that is always in sync with the larger quantum field. When you allow this essence to simply exist without effort or longing, you naturally attract what is meant to be in your life. This is why the most profound shifts often occur when you are not actively trying to change anything, but instead allowing things to unfold on their own. The less you try to control the process, the more rapidly and effortlessly form begins to respond. This is the paradox. The more you detach from the need to control or bring about an outcome, the faster the quantum field will bring it to you. This dynamic also works on a deeper level when considering the way the quantum field perceives you. The field is not responding to your desires in the way you might expect. It is responding to your vibrational frequency, which is primarily determined by the absence or presence of resistance. When you need something, your energy is subtly broadcast as incomplete, unfulfilled, or lacking. The field then mirrors that lack, keeping you in a state of perpetual wanting. But when you remove the need and simply exist in a state of neutrality, your energy communicates wholeness, completeness, and alignment. In this state, the quantum field has no choice but to mirror back that sense of wholeness, bringing to you everything that matches your complete, neutral state of being. This paradox of needing nothing in order to attract everything also plays into the concept of trust. Trust in this context is not about hoping that something will happen, nor is it about needing a specific outcome. Trust is the natural byproduct of releasing the need for control and simply allowing things to unfold. When you trust the process, you're not attached to any specific result. You're simply in alignment with the flow of the quantum field. The absence of attachment to a particular outcome is what creates the energetic space for what you desire to come into your reality. In this state of receptivity, you stop focusing on what is missing and start focusing on what already is. When you remove the need to seek, you begin to notice the synchronicities, the opportunities, and the manifestations that are already present in your life. The quantum field does not need to be pushed or forced. It operates in perfect harmony when we release our need to control it. When you no longer need something, you stop pushing against the natural order of the universe, and instead, you align with it. This is when the magic of quantum manifestation begins to unfold in ways that feel effortless and organic, as though everything is falling into place without you having to do anything at all. By stepping into this state of pure neutrality, you allow the quantum field to do its work without interference. In this place, you are a perfect match for the energy that surrounds you, and the field simply reflects that resonance back to you, bringing your desires into material reality. Chapter 13. The Unseen Influence. How other people's fields interfere with yours. The interaction between individual fields and the external fields around them plays a significant role in the manifestation process. Every person's field carries its own unique frequency, a signature energy pattern that reflects their thoughts, emotions, and intentions. However, when two or more individuals are in close proximity, their fields interact and can influence each other. This influence is often unnoticed, and the result is that an external field can easily overlap or overwrite a weaker or unfocused quantum signal. When your energy is not strong or clear enough, it becomes susceptible to the stronger influence of those around you. This is especially true in situations where the energy around you is intense or where the people involved have a powerful presence. In such environments, your personal field can be influenced to the point where it no longer resonates at its original frequency. This overlap can distort your intentions and cause the manifestation process to veer off course. In group settings, the influence of collective energy becomes even more pronounced. Human beings are social creatures, and our fields are constantly interacting with those of others, particularly in group environments. A single individual's field might hold its own frequency, but in a group there is a shared field that amplifies and blends the energies of all participants. This collective field can anchor the frequencies of all involved, creating a sort of consensus reality that can strongly affect individual manifestations. It is within these group environments that reality shifts the most, not just according to the individual state of any single person, but in response to the frequency of the group as a whole. Group energy becomes the dominant field, and individual desires are more likely to be influenced, harmonized, or overridden by the group's narrative. When surrounded by a collective energy, personal manifestation efforts can become less effective or even distorted, as your field is unconsciously harmonized with the narratives and desires of the group. This unconscious harmonization occurs when a person unknowingly tunes into the collective frequency of the group, blending their intentions with those of others. It's as if each person within the group contributes to the creation of a shared reality, and without being aware of it, individuals can begin to align their own desires with the group's collective storyline. As a result, the personal desires of an individual can be distorted, as their intentions are no longer in full alignment with their core resonance. Instead, they become subtly influenced by the larger, more dominant narrative unfolding within the group. This dynamic can be seen in any group setting, whether at work, in family gatherings, social groups, or larger collective movements. The more you interact with a group, the more your energy becomes entangled with theirs, and this entanglement can cloud your personal manifestational clarity. If the group energy is not in harmony with your individual goals or desires, it can interfere with your ability to manifest what you truly want. Manifestation distortion caused by group field interference is a subtle but powerful phenomenon. It is not always obvious, but when your field is harmonized with a collective narrative, the energy within it can shift away from your original intentions. The desires you once felt strongly about may start to lose their potency, or worse, you might find yourself subconsciously aligning with the desires of the group, even if those are not in your highest interest. This interference does not necessarily come from a place of malice. It is simply a natural occurrence within the dynamics of shared energy fields. The collective energy of the group begins to dominate, and individual energy becomes more malleable to the group's focus, even at the expense of personal desires and intentions. The result is a shift in the trajectory of your personal manifestation process, which can lead to frustration or confusion as your energy no longer feels aligned with your original path. In order to maintain quantum coherence and stay true to your own energetic signature, it is essential to periodically isolate your field. Field isolation is not about cutting yourself off from others or avoiding group settings altogether. Rather, it is about taking the time to reset your internal resonance, ensuring that your field is not being unintentionally influenced or overwritten by external energies. Isolation allows you to reconnect with your own frequency, recalibrate your intentions, and clarify your manifestations without the interference of outside fields. This isolation could take many forms, from spending time in nature, engaging in personal reflection, or practicing energy-clearing techniques. The goal is to create a space where your energy is your own, free from the distractions and influences of external fields. Field isolation serves to help you remember who you are beyond the external pressures and influences. It's easy to lose sight of your personal intentions and desires when you are constantly surrounded by the energetic patterns of others. By creating moments of stillness and solitude, you allow yourself to reconnect with your true energetic frequency and realign with your original intentions. This reset ensures that when you do re-enter group dynamics, your energy is strong enough to remain coherent and undistorted by the collective narratives around you. It allows you to manifest more effectively as your own desires become more prominent and clear within the quantum field. It is important to understand that quantum coherence is not a static state. It requires ongoing maintenance. The more you engage with others, the more your field interacts with theirs, and the more susceptible it becomes to outside influence. Just as an instrument must be tuned regularly to produce the purest sound, your quantum field must be recalibrated periodically to maintain its integrity. When your field is in perfect coherence, it acts like a finely tuned instrument, sending out clear, focused energy that attracts the manifestations aligned with your desires. However, when outside influences distort your frequency, that alignment is compromised, and your manifestations are less clear or take longer to materialize. The key to maintaining a strong and clear quantum field is awareness. Recognizing when you are being influenced by external fields and taking the necessary steps to realign yourself is essential to manifesting effectively. By understanding that your energy is not solely yours when in the presence of others, you can take conscious action to protect and strengthen your field. Through periodic isolation and recalibration, you can maintain quantum coherence and ensure that your manifestations remain in alignment with your highest intentions, free from the interference of external energy fields. This practice helps you remain connected to your core resonance, ensuring that your energy remains focused and undistorted by the collective narrative of the world around you. Chapter 14. Mirror Realities. When the world isn't reflecting what you think. In the intricate dance between perception and reality, not every external reflection can be seen as a direct mirror of your internal state. The universe doesn't always show an immediate or clear reflection of the energy you emit. Sometimes what appears to be a direct mirror of your energy might not be a mirror at all, but rather an echo from an adjacent timeline or parallel reality. These echoes arise because the quantum field is fluid and vast, capable of pulling from not just the present moment, but also from potential future or past realities that align with your current vibrational frequency. When your energy interacts with this complex quantum structure, it is possible to experience situations or reflections that seem to contradict your expectations. What you perceive as a direct reflection of your internal state may actually be a resonance from a different moment or a different version of reality, one that is vibrating at a similar frequency but may not be entirely representative of your present experience. These resonance echoes can create confusion, as they often appear to reinforce old patterns or obstacles that no longer serve you. The energetic information coming from these timelines may seem like a challenge or an opposition to your goals, but in reality, they may simply be an energetic overload. An overload occurs when your energy becomes too saturated with competing frequencies or unresolved fragments from adjacent realities. This can cause what seems like a contradiction or resistance when, in fact, the energy is just too dense or layered with echoes of what has already been. These experiences can feel like obstacles, as if the universe is pushing against you, but they are not true resistances. Instead, they are echoes of old vibrational patterns that have not yet cleared. These echoes may manifest as external challenges that seem to test your current path, but they are simply remnants of previous energetic choices or parallel realities that no longer align with your current state of being. In many instances, the world does not reflect the present moment, but instead mimics your frequencies past. When the universe echoes an old version of your energy, it might appear that there is a delay in your manifestation process or that the external world is not matching your current desires. The delay, however, is often misunderstood. It is not a reflection of failure or lack, but rather a misread signal that originates from a past version of your frequency. Just as a vibration travels through space and time, it can take time for the full manifestation of your current energy to become fully realized in the external world. This delay is often confused with resistance or opposition, but it is simply the result of energetic lag, where the field responds to your present signal, but reflects it through a delay matrix, carrying echoes from earlier vibrations that are no longer in alignment with your current state. This concept of delayed reflection can be frustrating, especially when you are focused on immediate results or expect to see your energy mirrored instantly in the external world. However, it's important to understand that the quantum field works in layers, and each layer interacts with multiple timelines. The energetic frequency you emit today might not manifest in the world until several moments later, depending on the coherence of your energy and the clarity of your signal. What appears as resistance or as a block to your desires is often just a delayed echo from an earlier time or frequency. The world doesn't immediately match your thoughts, desires, or energy in real time. Instead, it processes and reflects back what has been sent out. This process can take time, and often what you see in the world is the result of the energy you've sent out in the past. This is why sometimes the world seems to mimic your frequencies past instead of aligning with your present vibration. The external world is not ignoring you, but rather catching up to your current signal, which can sometimes be mistaken for a lack of alignment or manifestation delay. What might appear as resistance from the world often has more to do with the coherence of your internal energy than it does with any external force opposing you. The field responds to your current frequency, but it reflects it in a way that can be delayed or displaced due to previous patterns still existing in the energetic field. This delayed response is not a contradiction to your desires, but a temporary displacement in the coherence of your energy. When you encounter what seems like an obstacle, it is helpful to pause and recognize that it may not be a sign of something wrong. Instead, it may be the result of an earlier, dissonant frequency still playing out in the quantum field. In many ways, these apparent obstacles are not truly oppositions to your goals, but are instead manifestations of displaced coherence that need time to clear or adjust to your current energetic state. This misinterpretation of external events as opposition often causes unnecessary resistance within ourselves. When we encounter these delayed reflections or what seem to be energetic overloads, we may react by amplifying the tension, expecting the world to push back against us. However, this only increases the dissonance and prolongs the energetic delay. Recognizing that these reflections are simply displacements within the field can allow for a more relaxed, less resistant approach to manifestation. Understanding that what seems like resistance is actually a sign of the energy catching up with you can help you avoid the trap of believing that the world is against you. It's not a contradiction, but a temporary misalignment or adjustment, and your internal coherence can help speed up the process of clearing it. In essence, what you perceive as external resistance or obstacles is often a reflection of displaced coherence, rather than an actual contradiction to your desires. The quantum field is constantly adjusting and realigning to match the frequencies being emitted by individuals, but this process is not instantaneous. Delays are a natural part of the manifestation process, especially when multiple layers of energy need to clear before the desired manifestation can fully materialize. These delays are not a sign that the universe is working against you, but rather that the energetic field is working through layers of past frequencies and aligning them with your present vibrational state. Understanding this dynamic allows you to navigate the process with more patience and clarity, recognizing that apparent resistance is not a failure of manifestation, but a natural part of the energetic alignment process. Chapter 15. The Shortcut Principle. Reality bends for simplicity, not complexity. The quantum field is inherently drawn to simplicity, and this is crucial for understanding how manifestation works. The more complex a desire or intention becomes, the more diluted and fragmented the energy signals are. In essence, the quantum field operates most efficiently when it is receiving clear, uncomplicated energy signals. When you put out a simple, unambiguous frequency, it is easier for the field to respond quickly and directly. Simplicity allows the energy to stabilize and focus on one clear outcome, whereas complexity introduces multiple conflicting frequencies that cause distortion, making it harder for the manifestation to materialize in a clear or consistent way. This principle is central to how reality responds to your intentions. The more intricate and convoluted the desire or the process, the more difficult it is for the quantum field to find a clear path to follow. Complex energy signals, made up of many conflicting layers or fluctuating frequencies, cause delays and confusion within the quantum field. Instead of following a single, focused line of energy, the field is presented with a fragmented or scattered energy pattern. This leads to a disruption in the natural flow of manifestation, creating outcomes that are less predictable and less stable. Simpler signals, on the other hand, collapse into matter more smoothly and more reliably. The clearer and more straightforward the signal you send out, the more the field can work with it, aligning external circumstances to bring that signal into physical form. Complexity not only disrupts the flow of energy, but it also fragments the timeline trajectory. Each added layer of complexity creates a new potential pathway, causing the manifestation to become scattered across multiple directions. This fragmentation makes it difficult for a clear, focused outcome to emerge because the energy has been split into too many variables. Rather than pulling everything toward a single, aligned result, The quantum field is forced to respond to multiple possible directions, some of which may even be contradictory to each other. This scattered energy causes timelines to diverge, making it harder for a singular manifestation to take hold in the physical world. Each conflicting signal weakens the overall clarity of the energy you're sending out, and as a result, the desired manifestation can be delayed, distorted, or completely blocked. A key point in this process is recognizing that manifestation shortcuts aren't necessarily achieved by adding more actions or steps. In fact, the path to manifestation can be significantly shortened by removing unnecessary complexities and variables. By eliminating distractions, doubts, or conflicting desires, you create a much clearer and more direct path for your energy to flow. Instead of complicating the process with additional mental or emotional layers, focus on simplifying the signal you send out to the quantum field. The clearer and more focused your intention, the more aligned the external world becomes with it. When you remove the unnecessary complexities, the quantum field can more easily align its energies to fulfill your intention. It is not through action or exertion that manifestations are accelerated, but through clarity and simplicity. The elegance of the inner structure of your energy plays a significant role in how quickly and consistently manifestations materialize in your external world. When your internal energy is clear, stable, and coherent, the external world can respond with equal clarity. This internal coherence allows for a faster and smoother manifestation process because the energy has already been refined into a focused, uncomplicated signal. The more harmonious your internal frequency is, the less resistance there is for the quantum field to align external circumstances with your desires. In this sense, the more elegant the structure of your internal energy, the faster the desired manifestation stabilizes in the physical world. Elegance in this context refers to the refinement of the energy you project, making it simple, consistent, and aligned with your true desires. This is a profound insight because it challenges the conventional idea that more effort, more actions, or more steps are necessary to manifest what you want. In the realm of the quantum field, it is not the number of actions taken that influences manifestation speed or accuracy. Rather, it is the clarity and simplicity of the signal being sent. Overcomplicating the process by introducing extraneous desires or conflicting ideas not only makes manifestation more difficult, but it also makes the journey to your desired outcome more unpredictable. Complexity generates confusion, while simplicity generates alignment. Ultimately, reality bends in favor of simplicity. The quantum field responds most efficiently to clear, uncomplicated signals. The more refined and focused your internal energy, the more quickly the external world will rearrange itself to match your intentions. When you remove the excess layers of complexity, you create a more direct, unobstructed pathway for your desires to manifest. Simpler energy signals lead to more reliable and predictable manifestations, while complexity leads to fragmentation and delay. The shortcut to manifestation is not through added actions, but through stripping away the unnecessary and letting the energy align with purity and simplicity. This is the way the quantum field works, responding to the energy that is most straightforward, most coherent, and most in alignment with your true essence. Conclusion. You've just explored the most advanced inner mechanisms of reality, each chapter revealing a hidden layer of how your consciousness, vibration, and perception shape the world around you. From the hidden architecture behind divine law to the illusion of thought itself, from the reversal of manifestation to the subtle quantum codes running behind every outcome, you now hold keys that most people never discover. These weren't just teachings, they were blueprints for navigating the unseen, bending timelines, and decoding the field of existence. Each principle unlocked a new level of mastery, not by adding more, but by helping you see differently. And what you see, you change. Congratulations, you've completed the audiobook. If any part of this message stirred something deep inside you, that wasn't random. That was resonance. And if it resonated, it's already happening. If you liked this, the field takes notice. If you share this, the field expands through you. If you subscribe, the field anchors that alignment and mirrors it back. So now, it's your move. Like this, and let that frequency echo back. Share this and ripple that code through your connections. Subscribe and lock in that signal for what's coming next.